Welcome to Check This Out, podcast for kids.
And their grown-ups, where we explore people, places, ponderings, and past moments from history that shape the world around us. My name is Amy Contreras.
And I'm Cece.
Welcome to our third episode in the series on the 7 natural wonders of the world. Last week, we talked all about
Mount Everest.
Yes, Cece, and we learned so many cool things, like how Mount Everest is the highest mountain on Earth, and how the first recorded people to reach the top only did so in 1953. We also learned how the local Tibetan people, known as Sherpas, helped the expeditions climb to the top of Mount Everest.
I remember hearing about that.
I also thought it was incredible to learn about that death zone and all of the expeditions and the various ways to climb to the top.
Me too.
It was also pretty fun to learn about all the poop. But if you want to learn more, make sure you listen to our full episode on Natural Wonder of the World, Mount Everest.
Yeah!
These natural wonders of the world are so cool, and there's so much to talk about and learn about. This week, we're talking about another natural wonder of the world, the harbor of Rio de Janeiro.
Here's a quick overview.
The harbor of Rio de Janeiro is a natural wonder of the world. It's also known as Guanabara Bay. This harbor is a large natural bay that's located in southeastern Brazil, and it's surrounded by the city of, you guessed it, Rio de Janeiro. This harbor or bay is considered a natural wonder due to its size. It's the largest natural bay on Earth by water volume.
I had no idea.
The harbor of Rio de Janeiro is approximately 159 square miles. The harbor has a really narrow entrance, and there's a famous mountain called Sugarloaf Mountain and Corcovado Peak that overlook the harbor. There are also several islands within the harbor as well, including Governor's Island, Fundão Island, and Snakes Island.
That is cool.
The harbor of Rio de Janeiro, or Guanabara Bay, is known for its dramatic cliffs, the lush green mountains that surround it, and of course, the iconic Sugarloaf Mountain that rises up really sharply from the water. These features all contribute to its recognition as a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Check this out.
UNESCO stands for the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO. If a place is labeled a UNESCO World Heritage Site, that means a place is recognized by the United Nations as having outstanding universal value, and it's put on something called the World Heritage List.
Oh, that's important.
Now let's learn a little bit more about the history of this natural wonder of the world,
the harbor of Rio de Janeiro.
Portuguese explorer Gaspar de Lemos first sailed into the bay on January 1st of 1502.
That was a long time ago.
It was. When the Portuguese stumbled upon the bay, they had originally named it Rio de Janeiro, which means January River. When Portuguese explorers arrived in Brazil in the early 16th century, they encountered this magnificent natural harbor. The name Guanabara is believed to come from the Tupinamba word guano, meaning big or important, and bara, meaning harbor, reflecting its significance also to the indigenous peoples who were in the area of Brazil and Rio de Janeiro long before Europeans and Portuguese explorers arrived. Woo, history. The Portuguese ultimately established a colony in Brazil, and the harbor became an important port for trade and transportation. In the 17th and 18th centuries, the harbor of Rio de Janeiro also served as a strategic location for the defense of the Portuguese Empire. They built a lot of forts along the harbor area that would protect it from any kind of foreign invasion.
Good to know.
The city of Rio de Janeiro is a really big city in Brazil. It has over 6 million people who live there. And the harbor of Rio de Janeiro is a super popular spot for swimming, snorkeling, scuba diving, all kinds of fun stuff.
That sounds fun.
The harbor of Rio de Janeiro is also home to lots of species of marine life. There are dolphins, whales, even sea turtles. And people will go surfing and windsurfing in the harbor as well.
How incredible.
The harbor also is home to a lot of historic sites. So there are historic churches and religious sites that include the Candelaria Church and the very famous Christ the Redeemer statue.
What's that?
Check this out. The statue of the Christ the Redeemer was completed in 1931, and it is huge. The statue is 98 feet tall. It also has horizontally outstretched arms, which are 92 feet wide. So when you see pictures of Rio de Janeiro, you often see pictures of this really big Christ the Redeemer statue that also overlooks the harbor.
I want to check out more about that.
Throughout history, Rio de Janeiro's harbor has played an important role in Brazil's development. Its protected waters made it a perfect place for ships to dock, which helped the city to grow, and it has become one of the most important ports in Latin America. In 1763, Rio de Janeiro officially became Brazil's capital, which also boosted its importance. The harbor was where a lot of various ships of exploration, trade, and even Navy battles would arrive into. The harbor of Rio de Janeiro has helped to shape Brazil's economy and its history.
How, Mama?
Well, Cece, for example, in 1808, the Portuguese royal family had to flee to Rio de Janeiro to escape from Napoleon. And when they came to Rio, their presence turned the city into a royal hub. So the harbor became so busy with ships carrying royal treasures, also artists and explorers from Portugal who were trying to escape from Napoleon.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, the harbor of Rio de Janeiro has a cool history, and there are also legends associated with it. There are a bunch, so I only pulled out a couple of my favorites. So here are some of the most famous legends. One tells local stories of pirates hiding treasures in the hidden coves. And legends say that the water's shimmer in the harbor is the tears of native spirits watching over Rio de Janeiro. There's also the legend of Sugarloaf Mountain, which is that big mountain that towers over the harbor. According to legend, Sugarloaf Mountain was once a giant block of sugar that was left behind by a giant who had stolen it from a pantry. The mountain is said to have been transformed into stone by the god of thunder, who was angered by the giant's theft.
I learned something new today.
Yeah, here are a couple more fun legends about the harbor. There's the legend of the Enchanted Prince. And this legend tells the story of a prince who fell in love with a mermaid who lived in the waters of the harbor. The prince eventually transformed into a dolphin so that he could be with his true love forever and ever. And last one, there's the legend of the cursed island. And according to this legend, the island of Paqueta, which is located in the middle of the harbor, is said to be cursed. It's said that anyone who spends more than 7 years on the island will never leave it again.
How scary.
These are just legends, but it helps you understand how important this harbor is to the city of Rio de Janeiro, the country of Brazil, as well as the native people who lived in this area long before European explorers ever set eyes on it. So now that you've all learned a little bit more about the harbor of Rio de Janeiro or Guanabara Bay, it's time to wrap things up. But as always,
we wrote you a poem.
Here we go. In southeastern Brazil, there's a special bay, a natural wonder that brightens our day. Guanabara Bay, big and wide, with mountains and islands on every side. Sugarloaf Mountain stands so tall, like a giant's loaf it's seen by all. Corcovado peaks rise high, watching over the city and the sky. Dolphins splash and whales all play, sea turtles swim along on their way. People surf on the sparkling water, feeling the breeze, having fun like explorers. This special harbor full of tales of pirate legends and ancient sails, from long ago when explorers arrived, to today where it's alive and thrives. So remember Rio's harbor, bright and bold, a gift of nature, priceless gold, a place where stories and waters blend, a wonder forever, beginning to end. Thanks for listening to another episode of Check This Out. Remember, we use verified resources when creating episodes for you.
Our sources are
Encyclopedia Britannica, 7naturalwonders.org, and UNESCO.org.
Thanks for listening. See you next episode. Don't forget to subscribe.